So, good morning, everybody.
You're a minute early.
I know. We're gonna start getting ready and Madam Administrator will let us know when we have it on YouTube.
Susan isn't ready, so just unplug yourself. Oh. Good morning.
Did you notice they took the lights down in front of the mics?
Oh, yeah.
So we can actually see?
Oh,
I
so you
can't help
see.
you out there.
No more mood lighting in there. huh?
And my husband has one of those like headlamp things, like
Yeah, there you go. What's that sort, when you go down in the caves, what's that called?
spelunking.
Spelunking lamps. We can get spelunking lamps for you.
Okay.
Okay, now we're recording.
All right. So good morning, everybody. We're going to call the public hearing for the contract, the contract approval of a memorandum of agreement between the PCA Workforce Council and the New England Healthcare Employees Union District 1199 SEIU in the state. So first up, we have Thomas Austin and Kristen Pepin. Mr. Austin? Good morning.
You gotta plug your.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Now you're all set. If you wouldn't mind giving us an overview of the contract?
Absolutely. Senator Austin, Walker, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony on SR 7 and HR 9.
Could you hold on 1 second, please?
Somebody's got their computer on.
Okay. Thank you. That's because you don't have any lights, so you can't see it.
Okay, try now.
Okay. Senator Austin, Representative Walker, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee, thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony on SR 7 and HR 9, resolution proposing approval of a memorandum of agreement between the PCA Workforce Council and the New England Healthcare Employees Union, District 1199 SEIU. I have with me today my colleague.
I just like looking at the cell factor.
Pepin, who's the co-negotiator on this contract, along with Melissa Morton from OPM, who provides a substantial support to the Workforce Council, and Claudio Guterri, the Undersecretary for HHS and Chairman of the Workforce Council. Personal care attendants, PCAs, while not state employees, are authorized to bargain collectively under Connecticut General Statutes 17B 706A. For more than a year after more than a year of negotiations, the Personal Care Attendant Workforce Council and the New England Healthcare Employees Union District 1199 SEIU reached an agreement for a 3-year contract that includes 8 tentative agreements. This contract covers approximately 12,000 PCAs and approximately 8,000 consumers of Connecticut's Medicaid self-directed programs. The state continues its effort to rebalance Connecticut's long-term services and supports system by shifting from an over-reliance on costly nursing facility and institutional care to traditionally lower-cost home and community-based supports that achieve the dual goal of allowing residents to live in the least restrictive, most appropriate setting of their choice while saving the state money. This successor agreement continues to support this goal by providing Medicaid participants in self-directed programs more options to exercise the ultimate dignity of choice through the ability to hire, train, schedule, and direct the tasks of personal care attendants, providing services that allow the participants to remain in their home and community. As more people are receiving support in their own homes, the need for a stable and well-trained home care workforce has increased. This new agreement aims to help consumers in self-directed programs attract and retain PCAs in support of this mission. Upon Legislative and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, approval, these agreements support the following items. 1, raising the minimum rate paid to PCAs through a series of increases, with the first increase occurring 45 days of legislative and CMS approval, and subsequent increases effective on July 1st and January 1st thereafter, giving the PCAs the opportunity to make $23 an hour by year 2026. PCAs will be eligible to receive a one-time longevity bonus. Categories of workers other than PCAs, such as hourly respite workers and companions, are also covered by the agreement and will receive varying raises and general wage increases. 2, providing an increase in the premium assistance benefit that aids PCAs with healthcare coverage and offsets medical expenses. It also streamlines the application process by switching from a semi-annual to an annual application filing. 3, expanding paid time off from 40 to 50 hours per year per each consumer employer through increased accrual rates and annual accumulation thresholds. 4, adding 2 additional holidays, Labor Day and Juneteenth, that allow workers to receive time and a half for hours worked on those days. And 5, maintaining funding to the training fund that supports orientation and skills enhancement, including tuition reimbursement. The $21.7 million state share cost of the tentative agreement in fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 is included in the enacted fiscal year 2024 budget and fiscal year 2025 governor's proposed budget through the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, Home and Community-Based Services Reinvestment Plan, which runs through March 31, 2025. The remaining quarter of fiscal year 2025 can be accommodated within the governor's proposed budget of fiscal year 2025 for the Departments of Social Services and Developmental Services. These agreements reflect the goals of the Workforce Council and the union to provide quality care to the citizens of Connecticut who rely on PCA services, and we urge the committee's favorable consideration and respectfully ask for your approval. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And you just have people that are here in case you needed some backup?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we don't have anybody else from the state that would be asking some questions. And so just talking dollars and here, Mr. Austin, I have looking at the cost estimate on the fiscal analysis that we got from the Office of Fiscal Analysis. I have a revenue gain of $1,387,000 this current year, and a total net state cost of $5,026,000. Is that what you?
Madam Chairman, can I call on the assistants when you get into the budgetary weeds, so to
Yes, you
speak?
can call.
I'd rather have you get the most accurate information.
Okay.
And I'd like to call up to Melissa Morton, who can provide, I think, more than adequate responses to your questions. And I feel much better with her giving the information to you. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Morton with the Office of Policy and Management.
Good morning. So I'm looking at the cost estimate of the agreement from the Office of Fiscal Analysis, and it is on page 1 of the report that we received from the Office of Fiscal Analysis. And I have this year a total general fund cost of $6,413,000.
Give me one.
And I have from that revenue gain of $1,387,000 and a net state cost of $5 million. So when this fiscal year did this already take effect? Did you calculate this in?
For fiscal year 2024,
Yes.
for
Rob?
2024, the cost of the labor agreement will not begin until such time as there is legislative and CMS approval. The first thing that will go into effect will likely be the wage increases. bumping the personal care attendants up from $18.75 to $20. That will be the first thing to go into effect. So far in 2024, the only expenses that have been incurred were for the continuing labor agreement.
Okay, and then CMS would also have to approve that, we would approve the agreement, then you send it to CMS and CMS would approve it.
That's exactly correct. The Department of Social Services would submit any parts of this requiring CMS approval through a state plan amendment.
And that would also be, once approved, will be backdated, or is it approved from that date
It's
forward?
Everything in this agreement is from approval date forward. There is
Okay.
nothing retroactive.
Okay, thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you. Does Representative Walker?
Thank you, and thank you both for your presentation this morning. I just want to go back to when your opening statement, because I think this is an important issue. You said that this contract that's before us will affect 12,000 PCAs, but also 8,000 consumers. Could you explain that a little bit for people to understand? Because I'm sure people don't understand when you do that, what it means, when you say that.
Sure. Are you asking for an explanation of what the
Yes.
consumer employer is? Sure.
Yeah.
So this is a unique agreement in that the actual employers of record are not the state of Connecticut, but they are the Medicaid participants who have selected to participate in the state of Connecticut's Medicaid self-directed programs. Most of you are probably familiar with Community First Choice under Medicaid. That is our state plan option. And that is what most of the Medicaid consumer employers whose employees are covered by this agreement, that's where they receive their services. And most of the funding used to reimburse personal care attendants comes through the Community First Choice program, as well as some of the other waiver programs offered in the state at the Department of Developmental Services and DSS. So I think what you make an excellent point, Representative Walker, that what we're talking about here in that 8,000 number is that is 8,000 individual unique businesses that are covered under this labor agreement. And those business owners, if we want to call them that, are the Medicaid participants themselves.
When we first started this journey, one of the things was trying to support those consumers in being able to control their own lives, but also giving them the support and the guidelines so that everybody was going to be fairly working together under certain rules and regulations. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the consumer employer, the great part of a self-directed program is it allows them true autonomy and the ability to choose whom, when, and where they receive their services. So in the consumers under this program receive an individualized budget. They then can use that budget within the parameters of the Medicaid program to receive the services and supports necessary for them to remain safely in the community. And that means having the ability to hire whomever they feel comfortable hiring to provide their personal care services. So that could be a friend, a neighbor, somebody that they find on Craigslist or through a registry. And it allows them the full autonomy to hire, train, fire, manage, control all the time, everything, just like any employer would.
I think one of the things that we appreciated about it was that it protected both the consumer and the worker. And everybody understood what their role was, and we helped make sure that this was very clear for everybody. So all the things, when something happens, how are we going to deal with it, and how do we work through it so that nobody is taken advantage of in any circumstance. So I thought it was a great collaboration, and I thank you all for all the things that you've done. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Nuccio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions on the cost estimate on here also. I've read the documentation, but I would like to understand the breakdown. So for a full year 2024, it's showing a total gross cost of $10,862,000, with a general fund cost of $6,413. My calculations are correct. That's about 60% is the general fund cost. Is the difference, what is the difference between the general fund cost and the gross cost specifically?
So under our Medicaid programs, there is a match. So we are able to get 56% match on a majority of what is paid out for this program and 50% match in other areas. So that's where the difference in the gross funding comes from.
So it's 56% on the majority and 50% on others.
Mhm.
Okay,
Correct.
and then we have the general fund revenue gain. And according to that, it's federal reimbursement for certain Medicaid related expenditures. What is that specifically? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's net versus gross at DDS.
I'm not following. Which part?
Do you want to?
That's okay.
Send the big dogs in, right?
Good morning, Representative
morning.
Nuccio and
How are you?
chairs of appropriations. Thanks, Claudia Gualtieri from OPM. Good to be with you. Very proud of this contract. So glad to say a few words. So because this program is split roughly 1/3, 2/3, 2/3 going through DSS waiver and Medicaid programs, the other third going through DDS, we budget differently. So Medicaid is net budgeted. So we would recognize the 56% match immediately in our net budgeting for that line item. The portion that's the revenue gain comes from the part that's DDS, which is gross budgeted, and then we get the revenues on the back end. So that's just a budgeting mechanic between the two splits in this program across DDS and DSS.
So the 5 million is the state portion after all Medicaid reimbursement.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. I thought I heard somebody say that 24 or 25 is being funded through ARPA.
I just want to clarify, and then I'll let Melissa fill in. So this is a very specific, separate part of ARPA. When we think of ARPA, it's not the state fiscal recovery program that we allocate in the budget. There was a dedicated line item that's required by the feds where we got a 10% enhanced match for our home and community-based services to help promote and strengthen home and community-based providers. And we had a requirement by the feds that we take this money and reinvest it in the home and community-based system. And there had been plenty of wage increases, stabilization payments that we did to agency-based PCAs and home care workers. The part of the ARPA HCS plan that we held until we could collectively bargain for is this for the PCAs. So within that plan now, DSS and DDS have made accommodations to pay for this collective bargaining agreement so that we have approximately 12,000 PCAs now receiving wages and stabilizing the program for those 8,000 plus consumer Medicaid clients.
So it was paid, the original wages were paid in ARPA, and they have already moved the full cost of this into the actual general budget, is what you're saying?
So the ARPA HCBS plan runs through most of fiscal year 25.
Mhm.
The remaining quarter is built into the Medicaid reestimates and reflected in the governor's proposed budget before you for consideration.
Okay, so in 26, it becomes part of the Medicaid.
Base budget, yes.
Okay, and I guess that was my last, well, not really, but for now, till, because Kathy's gonna start side-eyeing me. What did we see this raise impact, going from 6.4 million to 25.8 million? What is the direct impact on Medicaid in the out years?
You want to take that? So it's important to note that in 26, a sizable chunk of the agreement is for one-time longevity bonuses. So when annualized out, we're looking at about 21 million net state costs.
And that's, but I guess that's what I'm confused on, net state costs. So we give 1199, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have the nonprofit payments, right, that go through DSS, et cetera. And then we're also seeing, the Medicaid side of this, right? Or is it not? Like, I guess that's where I'm confused. This is through wages, right? So we're increasing wages. through 1199. They're not state employees, they're bargained, et cetera. So that's a payment to 1199 for increase in wages. And then we have the Medicaid that's billing for these services, correct?
It's all
directly reimbursed.
Medicaid, but our Medicaid program isn't totally under DSS, right? That's the single state Medicaid agency, but there are pieces like DDS operates Medicaid waiver programs for its specialized clients too. We gross appropriate those, so that's the only difference. It's not substantively different saying that it's not Medicaid. We still get a match on it. It's just we claim revenue rather than a net budgeting of it. So in total, the total cost would be, if you just knock out the longevity, because that's one time, you're at about 20.8 million ongoing costs.
In Medicaid only.
In Medicaid, split along two different agency budgets.
First, I just have to clarify. We're not giving any money to 1199.
Yeah, that's true.
We are not giving any money to 1199. The state does not do that. The PCAs may provide money to 1199 in the form of union dues, but not, we do not give money to 1199. And so I wanted to clarify a couple of other things that Representative Nuccio was saying. To my understanding, the overall, according to the Office of Fiscal Analysis, the total annualized general fund cost is $28,030,000. I don't know if you guys have the OFA report. And then the general fund revenue gain is $6,061,000 with a net state cost of $21,969,000. Now that state cost then goes through another machination, and some of that would be returned through Medicaid. Is that what you're saying?
No, so the net state cost is the net state cost. The 6 million revenue gain is representative of the match on the DDS side of the
Right.
house. The other part is just net budgeted. So the difference between 47.4 and getting down to 28 is the match on the Medicaid side of the
Okay,
house through DSS.
I just want to make sure, because I
Thank
think
you.
that we have a lot of numbers running around here. We need to just
Yeah.
And it's a
focus on the numbers component of it. Did you have another question you wanted to ask?
I'll let other people go and then I can come
Okay,
back. So
next
that,
up,
that 22 though is the Medicaid increase that we can expect to see.
right,
Increase in healthcare costs.
21,969. 22. Senator Berthel? Did you
Good
have?
morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. I think that you and Representative Nuccio just asked and answered my question. I am concerned about the net impact on the overall budget. Obviously, we all stand in support of wanting to continue this service. We see the benefit of it to the beneficiaries, but I'll continue to listen to the dialogue at this point and make sure that that number that we just landed at is really what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Up
Madam
next-
Chair.
Austin.
Up next is Representative, yes.
I was going to just make a point. I think sometimes when we look at total value and fiscal cost, I think it's important to look at what the other offsets are that aren't in this package. So we know, for example, consumers overwhelmingly prefer to stay at home and in the community as long as possible. We also know that's in the best fiscal interest of the state. A person with physical disabilities or an older adult, we could serve 3 for every 1 in an institutional setting. So every dollar put into this program that helps those rebalancing goals in 2003, we were 50-50.
So I'm going to tell you to take that back to the Office of Policy and Management, because we have that argument all the time. For every dollar I put into tourism, I get $5 back. For every time I teach a child in early education, I save special education costs. For every single issue that we bring up here, we have that offset. And I find it ironic that the Office of Policy and Management is giving me a tutorial on the benefits that we are going to get. So I apologize for being a little stern, but you can't tell me about the benefits we get back when the benefits that we get back in areas that are important to the people that sit on this side of the table are disregarded.
Senator, I don't disagree with you. The difference is how tight the nexus is. These individuals who are getting this service are qualified and can go into a nursing home on day one. I understand as you expand the timeline, the reinvestment period is different. You're saying early education may materialize later on. This is literally within the same budget you'll be able to see because they could categorically choose a costly institutional option or the home and community base. They
and-
get those services now. It's just how we deliver
And,
them.
and birth to 3 shows up by year 4 and 5. So,
And next to Kathy, you know, I just want to see the numbers. I hear this, I hate to say it, but I hear it in every meeting, you know, oh, $1.05, $1.03, $1.07, just show me the numbers. Like, you know, I just want somebody to
I
show
got
me
another
the.
question from Representative Gilchrist. Representative Gilchrist?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question, but I would continue this piece by saying also we know with many of the PCAs at the low wages they
talk
currently receive.
Oh, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Not really. Or is your mic, can you get closer to your computer?
Yeah, can folks hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I do have a question, but I wanted to build off what was just being talked about, that when we look at the PCA workforce, we also know that with the low wages, they themselves are on many state services. So while I'm happy to see us moving to $23, I do think we actually need to continue to increase what they get. My question has to do with the piece about expanding paid time off from 40 to 50 hours per year. How is that accounted for? And are we ready as a state to move forward with that so folks get that time off?
Representative Gilchrist, I'll start, and then if Melissa has stuff to add, I'll let her add. And I thank you for raising that point. As you probably are aware, last year when we had an agreement, we for the first time instituted paid time off. Unfortunately, given the challenges with the fiscal intermediary and trying to stand that program up, it became very difficult. We negotiated with the unions to allow for a period of time to get through a transition to the new FI that's taking over at the end of this month. And the new FI has committed to us, and it's part of their contract, that they'll be able to operationalize paid time off. Up until now, we've been able to allow PCAs to accrue that benefit. They just have not been able to use that benefit. So we're very happy with the successor agreement that, one, we're aligning to the governor's paid sick leave bill on making sure that the accrual rate is modernized to that higher level, and with the new FI fully executing and taking on its role starting at the end of this month, we're hopeful that those accrued days that have started to build since last contract could actually be used for a sick time or to take a respite or take a break for the PCA. So I appreciate you underscoring that important provision in this agreement. Melissa, do you have anything to add?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All set, Representative? Up-
Yes, thank you.
Up Next is Representative Dathan.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's nice to see you all here today. Couple quick questions. Rep Nuccio covered my first question, so I get a bonus question. And to tag into that, pun intended, I'm going to talk about the longevity bonus. You've included that in the annualized numbers, and my understanding that that was just a one-off. So annualized going forward, that 5.6 million would not be an ongoing expense, but it's included in the annualized numbers. Can you just explain why it is?
It is intended to be just a one-time expense.
Okay, so if we talk about the annualized numbers as a result, it's not a gross cost of 47.5, it's actually closer to 42 and change.
That would
And
be
then
correct.
you would have a net ongoing state cost of probably about 19 and change, maybe 20. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so,
correct.
okay, so that's not an annualized cost. I just wanted to clarify. The second thing I wanted to really talk about is you talk about the general fund impact, and that this is being accounted for in DDS with the lapse of 35.6 million. My understanding of those lapses are a result of things that we put in the 5001 bill last year that have not been implemented by DDS. And I'm a bit concerned that we're relying on those dollars and therefore not able to help our intellectual and disabled communities with the services, especially the residential services that were included in those DDS numbers. And I'm just concerned that we need to, while this is super important to budget, I would much rather see this coming out of the reserve for salary and make sure that we get those dollars working for the residential programs for our intellectually and developmentally disabled community. That was just a comment. My next question, second question.
Before you go on, nothing can come out of the reserve for salary accounts. They're not state employees. That's the only thing
Oh,
that can
that's
come
right.
out of.
Thank
it's-
you for
yes,
clarifying
yeah.
that. That makes
Yeah.
a lot more sense.
So it doesn't come out of the reserve for salary accounts, which is already spoken for.
I figured it was probably spoken for a couple times, Madam Chair.
Not yet,
Not
only
yet.
once.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. That makes a lot more sense. I'm going to hold off my second question, let others, and I'll come back, but thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. Up next is Representative Belinsky.
Very much, Madam Chair. I just want to also acknowledge Mr. Gualtieri and the work that's being done on that end. I have a, let's just say, a laser focus on the Aging in Place initiatives, and I do understand the pivotal role of our PCAs. I also appreciate the frankness and the sternness of the conversation today about delineating between the fact that these are not state employees. So I have a couple of fundamental questions about just exactly who will be paying longevity bonuses, because we're assuming the same collective bargaining perspectives on this for non state employees, but I'm not totally clear on on where this is being paid for and how it's going to affect things. And then the second part of my question I want to ask at the same time and direct it to Claudio and anybody else who can help me understand this. In the grand scheme of things, we keep talking about how incredibly important aging in place, intellectual disability, and developmental disability care in the home type setting is, and how much money we can save as a state. And you know what? That is such an incredibly sharp selling point to changing up our entire continuum of care. But nobody, I have to reinforce what my ranking member, what the chair of appropriations, just passionately said. For goodness sake, how can we see numbers that tell us that this is not a $50 million incremental cost, but it is in fact a huge savings for the people of the state of Connecticut, which would make this an absolutely mind-bogglingly easy vote. Please, Claudio, help me.
I'll turn to Melissa, who does a lot of our long-term care planning and can contextualize how this fits into the long-term care plan and our rebalancing goals where a lot of the savings materialize.
Thank you. So I can start by answering your longevity question first. That one is easy. It is also being reimbursed with the Medicaid dollars. It is part of what would be approved by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services as part of overall reimbursement under our programs. And the way that the longevity works is because these are not state employees, you are correct, we are not building it into their wage scale like you would for a state employee where longevity, you get the bonus, it gets built into your wage scale. This is different. This is a one-time bonus. The entire goal of this labor agreement is to support recruitment and retention. Because as we know, it is critical to keeping people safe in the home that they have access to quality care, and the continuity of service providers is very important. So as a way to help and encourage workers to stay in the workforce and continue working for their same consumer employer, we are building in a longevity bonus based on working for 2 years or more and working a certain number of hours per week over an annualized period. So that is how we are handling the longevity bonus. It's a retention tool to encourage folks to stay in the workforce.
I understand that, Melissa. I just want to affirm again that this is, that this is a federal Medicaid expense. It's not something that's going to be borne by each individual recipient of services, and that indeed, if it's needed again in another 2 years, there is a definable revenue stream, and that we're not using one-time dollars to create for ourselves yet another recurring annual expense that doesn't have an answer the year after, which is the heart of all of the ARPA dollars that we're battling with every other state agency on right now. We created permanent liabilities with temporary money. I don't want to see us go down that road, and I need to be reassured that we're not doing that with this. Thank you. So that's
Thank you. So I can also speak to, I know there's been a lot of call today for some hard numbers about rebalancing and what it actually means to be providing the difference between home care and institutional care. So our office puts out every year, we do an annual rebalancing calculation that shows how the state has shifted its Medicaid spending according to the shift from over-reliance on institutional care to the switch to using our Medicaid dollars to compensate for home care. And we started tracking that back in 2003. And since 2003, the percentage of Medicaid clients receiving care in the community has increased by 50%, from only 46% in 2003 to 69% in 2003 to 69% in 2023. And what's important to note in that is we had our expenditures follow suit. So the percentage of Medicaid long-term care expenditures for home and community-based care actually went up from just 81% from 31% in 2003 to 56% in 2023. And it's important to note that home and community-based services accounts for 37% of the total Medicaid budget. And overall institutional care, we know is costing around $149,000 a year, and we're able to keep people home and pay at a lesser amount, give them a flexible budget where they're using the amount that they need for their care. So they get allocated an amount. Not everyone uses every penny that's allocated to them. The freedom of being able to make your choice and have autonomy is that you can best use your dollars to get the care and services that is needed. So not everyone maximizes their budget either. So we are seeing that we are having a shift in home and community-based services. And we feel that providing a fair and robust wage package to this group will allow more people to stay at home where they want to be and continue to be members of their community and contribute to our communities.
Yep, you are absolutely preaching to the choir. And here's the number that I think the ranking member and the chairs and I really don't understand. You were able to very clearly identify that we're spending 81% more on our home-based care type services right now. The question is, in that 81%, which in and of itself in a vacuum, is a staggering number. It may be also a number that indicates success. However, what's the corresponding number in the institutional care setting? Is there a decrease in there, in the percentage being dedicated to that particular, model of care in deference to what we in the state of Connecticut and everybody, receiving these services, pretty much wants, which is the home-based care model. So not just in percentages, but what does the 81% of additional spending represent in real dollars? And then what is the real dollar savings in what we are pulling out of the institutional care model? And that, Melissa, that is that's the answer to all of the questions about why this is so incredibly important and why it's going to be, aside from the better care and the love that you get at home, this is the crux of the argument that seals the deal with taxpayers and with people like me that are very concerned with just exactly where we're using our money and why we're using our money and how that equates to being the best thing for everybody, including the taxpayer and the folks that are in need of the care. I'm sorry for the long question, but there's so many moving parts, and we are I see that we are so incredibly close to being able to quantify this. I am literally jumping out of my chair with excitement to be able to quantify this and move on and do the right thing. So please help us quantify this.
So we can, here's the most stark number for me. 56% of all expenditures for long-term care are in home and community-based care, yet we're able to serve 69%. That's a huge plus up. About half the amount of money, almost 70% of the clients. That's where the differential is. We can back that in, Representative Belinsky. I don't have right now the numbers, but it's a simple math equation, as you said, percentage times the total amount, and we can do the differential between two. But that's the most stark thing. Serving more with less. And that's how we're seeing it show up.
And better, Claudio. And I'm excited because right now, you and we as a committee, we are going to be able to totally justify, something that gives us.
So can I just shorten this up, Representative?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to be sorry.
I'm a little bit.
We're going to get it from Claudio a little bit later on today from the Office of Policy Management, the chart.
Yeah, I'll conclude, Madam Chair. Claudio, I am so incredibly excited about seeing these numbers. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate seeing it. And thank you very much to you and your team. And Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the consideration of getting all that out of my system.
Okay. Representative Nuccio, do you have any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. So a couple of questions that I have left. In specific to the vacation pay and the bonus, how are those covered and paid for by Medicaid? I wasn't learning that Medicaid pays bonuses or vacation pay.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point. And so this was actually, quite frankly, one of the delays last time when we first instituted PTO. We had to negotiate with CMS on how we would create a rate structure that recognized, because Medicaid, to your point, Representative Nuccio, doesn't pay for time not worked. It pays for services. So what we do is we build in and accrue a portion of their rate every time for that anticipated date of vacation. So it's built in incrementally, not as a full day, but as assuming that they would take X number of days over the period of years divided by the rate. It gets built in on an hourly basis. And that's how CMS was able to accept it.
So it's built into the rate that is being charged from the client to Medicaid for so if somebody leaves, do you pay out an accrued amount?
No, this is very clear, this agreement. We do not pay out any accrued because we cannot. That's a Medicaid prohibition, and it's a limitation that we've been able to protect here. Actually, our statutory charge for the PCA Workforce Council explicitly says we cannot do anything that jeopardizes Medicaid reimbursement. That's why these agreements are conditioned on CMS approval, and we have to negotiate different structures that are acceptable to Medicaid and do guarantee the state match.
So how are you handling that with a $5.6 million retention bonus?
The retention bonus is paid out as a supplemental payment. So that is doable. We've done those often in the past. I think almost every PCA contract since the beginning has had some sort of supplemental or bonus. This time, rather than just making it a supplemental, we're attaching it to staying with the same consumer and client, because we find that if a PCA sort of develops an understanding of the habits, the strengths, and the preferences of that consumer, the experience for that consumer is a lot better. So we want to encourage them to stick with someone and provide that stability for a longer period of time. So we're paying it on the back end, but it's not unlike a supplemental payment that was part of the previous agreement or the one before that.
So you say it's paid out of supplemental payment, but where is that? Is that being paid by Medicaid?
Medicaid,
Yeah,
yes.
so it is.
56% matched for the lion's share of this program.
Okay, so that is allowable. All right. The rate that it's going to, from 1875 to 20, et cetera, to 23 and that, has your office looked at the consideration of what this is going to do to the benefit cliff?
Actually, I think that was top of mind in how we structured some of the healthcare benefits and making sure that there's a pathway to self-sufficiency. So what is happening before is there was no stipend, no other health support. So basically, you had some PCAs who were on Medicaid or covered Connecticut not wanting to take on extra hours of work, because then they would drop off those benefits and get nothing. So what we said is, let's create a benefit so that as people grow in the profession, are able to take on more hours, take on more clients, it helps us with our rebalancing goals, it helps consumers. It also can help the PCAs. So we're providing them with a stipend that they can use to shop on the exchange, which is sort of an equivalent to smooth that health benefit cliff that had existed previously. I think that that's very important. We don't want to deter work and self-sufficiency. And that's also why we beefed up some of the training fund to try to give tuition assistance. If people want to get on a path to becoming a CNA, those are high in demand jobs. This could be a springboard to other professional growth opportunities as well. So I think there are a couple intentional points in this agreement that speak to the benefits cliff, which you've been very articulate about in the 2-gen framework. So I thank you for that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand this then. So for the people who are currently on Medicaid or are currently on covered Connecticut, as their wages go up and the benefit cliff becomes more relevant, those are the people who are going to then get the premium assistant benefits that will give them money to go towards paying their premium on a regular exchange program.
Yes.
So it's not everybody, it's just as they progress.
Yep.
Okay, do we have any idea how many people we're going to be able to progress off of benefits and onto an individual plan?
We have experience that I'll turn to Melissa because she probably has top of mind from our first year of doing it, knowing that initiating a new benefit, there's always going to be a little bit of a ramp up. How many were we able to qualify as health stipends getting off of Medicaid? A few hundred?
Yeah, just under 300.
Okay,
And now with these wage increases, we would assume that compounding with a more seamless enrollment period, we're going to hope to see that continue to grow.
well, and they're probably going to transition to covered Connecticut first,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And then from there, okay. So we'll see the corresponding increase in covered Connecticut that we're seeing come off of, which is again, fully funded by the state, but still like, and well, with Medicaid reimbursement, et cetera. Okay. The last question that I have is in regard to the training and what qualifications, like you had mentioned that the You know, I think about this, I think about my mother, my aunts, my uncles, the people who are, you know, trying to age in place and such. And the aides that come to their house. And if you're saying that, you know, my mother can go and pick whoever she wants, her nephew, her, you know, whoever, right? What is the training that is required for these positions, and how are we making sure that we've got a standardization of care that is protecting the people who are, you know, going out and you're asking them to be an employer now, right?
Yep, that's a great question. So obviously, having a well-trained quality workforce is incredibly important to the program and the people who are served through the program. I'll start off by saying the entire point of self-direction is that people can hire who they're comfortable having do their care. And the point of having the consumer be the employer is they also get to train their personal care attendant in the manner in which they want them to provide services. So what we have found with this consumer population is it's not cookie cutter. There is not necessarily any one training that tells everybody how my mother would like to be bathed, or how my mother prefers to be held when she's transferred from her bed to a chair. However, we do acknowledge that there are in fact bed transfer mechanisms to make sure someone gets hurt and that type of thing. So all personal care attendants who go through this program are required within the first 90 days to undergo a PCA orientation. That's what some of the money that you see in this contract goes to fund, the mandatory PCA orientation. Also, in order to make sure that folks have an opportunity to improve their skill sets, we provide funding for voluntary trainings, and we provide a stipend for those trainings. That is also all incorporated in the $750,000 annually that you see in this contract. And people can receive training on how to work with individuals with Alzheimer's, for example. We also provide tuition reimbursement if people want to go and get additional training that helps them both career ladder, but also to gain valuable skills to help them in their job. It might be communication skills. It might be becoming a CNA. Additionally, our Department of Developmental Services has its own required training that every provider must go through. It's a robust online training. It's several hours long, I think 18 or 20 hours, that employees have to go through before they can start work.
And any of that, the training and such, does that get a Medicaid match also?
That is state funded.
That's
That
also-
one port, that's the portion of the contract that is state funded.
Okay, where do I find that here? And this, like the state funded piece, is that just the net state cost? It's in that net state cost piece?
That's built into current services because last year we made a change that basically said that will be automatic payments. We don't want to stop the training because it would disrupt the program. So it's no longer a collectively bargained for part of the contract. It's built in, it's already in the reflected enacted budget.
DSS.
In DSS, yes.
Okay,
And split, there's a small portion in DDS as well, proportionate share.
okay, thank you very much.
Oh, and I think it's important also to just point out that any portion of that that is not expended in a year remits back to the general fund. So it's not a carry.
Representative Dathan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to follow up with I understand that the approvals needed from CMS before any of these costs can be incurred and this can happen. My understanding is that can take 6 to 9 months for approval from CMS. So I'm wondering why we might have money in the fiscal 24 budget, as that will be over in about 3+ months.
Very good question, Representative Dathan. It depends on the type of change we're asking for. So one of the good things is that the SPA that's currently in place that operates this program reflects that wages are established through collective bargaining and through legislative approval. It's a much more expedited process for us to get a SPA for the wage piece. And since this is fundamentally, unlike last time when we instituted some new benefits like a healthcare stipend and paid time off, those approvals for those new designs are already in place. This is mostly just wage increases that can accrue relatively quickly, given the authority we already have. We just would have to do a spa building on that recognized authority from CMS. And in the past, those have happened a lot quicker. So we wanted to reflect and be honest that some of this could accrue relatively quickly if you all are agreeable to approving it.
So it would be accrued and not accrued, but it would just be happen, we'd get so how many months of cost are included in this fiscal 24 analysis? Basically, we have 4 months left in the year.
So we assumed
3.
April 1, which obviously, you know, is very
So you
ambitious and
think it would be
aggressive.
that fast? It just
So
seems
it may
really-
end up being less than, but we wanted to be conservative in budgeting and making sure that we were honest with the cost. So the most aggressive strategy would be getting it in place by April 1.
Yeah. So my second question is regarding OWS is doing a lot of work to increase this workforce, right? And I am sure that they are doing that with looking at statistics of how our population is aging, how many more are getting in-home services versus institutional services, and we know how expensive you've talked about the ROI on that just a few minutes ago. My question is, we have a stagnant number of PCAs in this analysis. So my question is, if we are looking at increasing that workforce, increasing the number of personal care attendants to manage our increasing aged population in our state, why aren't the numbers of wages and the number of personnel also increasing over the strategic nature of what OWS, what we're doing in that money? Because if not, and if we have to institutionalize more
So
people,
we're not,
it's $2
I
billion.
just like, we're not
a
really
year.
talking about OWS at all.
Yeah, no, but I'm just
We're
wondering,
confused,
coming
yeah,
back
but we're
here.
conflating things that are
Yeah,
different issues. So what we'll do is if they get more people, we'll get a deficiency bill at the end of the year.
okay.
That's what will happen.
So-
If they get more people, that's how it will work. We have to figure something for a stagnant workforce. And we'll hope that, you know, that they get more people, but that will happen on there. That's not a question relative to today's contract.
Okay. I just think the cost savings we should be talking about as part of this, having in-home care versus institutional care, especially in light of our aging population growing and needing those folks. And I understand that last year, there was an analysis done and there was about a $2 billion cost savings for having in-home care versus out of home.
Nationally, you mean?
No, in the state of Connecticut from 2003 to 2019.
No, not on a yearly basis, but
No, no.
since.
Cumulative.
Okay,
yeah.
so can we just stick to the contract, please?
Okay.
Because
I'm just more
I
worried.
have 20 other people that
I'm
have
more
to
worried
speak.
our costs are understated.
If we get more costs, we will have a deficiency bill at the end of the year.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Seeing no more questions for you, you're all set, sir. Up next is Rob Burrell and Deidre Murch. And they are not speaking from the state's perspective, they are speaking from the union perspective. So for all of you who have questions, please only ask from the. Okay,
Rob can handle it. Go ahead,
Rob, go ahead, Rob.
Good morning, Senator Austin, Representative Walker, all of the members of the Appropriations Committee, Robin. So we are very, very pleased with this agreement. You know, this is a workforce that is over 12,000 folks, has doubled in size since we first organized them a decade ago. And prior to this contract, I will be very direct and very honest in saying that this workforce, which was 100% dependent on federal and state Medicaid dollars, was really struggling economically. I mean, people who were living absolutely on the edge. Folks who work multiple jobs just to pay the bills, people who, when they see a rent increase, it in many cases means that they are trying to think about how they're going to maintain housing at all. Folks who struggle to pay, medical bills that in some cases are for life-threatening conditions. And so this is an agreement that significantly moves folks forward in terms of wages, as people have talked about. I want to particularly thank the governor and his administration's support for this workforce, particularly Governor's Chief of Staff, Johnny Dock, and especially Claudio Galtieri and OPM, who very much, I think, understood the urgency of trying to make real economic progress for this workforce. Also, Tom Austin and Melissa Morton, who are negotiating the contract with us. I'll turn things over to Steve Gemerch.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Morning.
Okay, wonderful. So you know a lot about this workforce already, but this workforce is now.
Deidre, we just need to say your name for the record.
Oh, sorry. Deidre Merch. I'm one of the vice presidents and home care director at 1199. So you know a lot about this workforce already. This workforce numbers nearly 12,000. The vast majority are women and the majority are people of color. This is a workforce that is doubling in size, we anticipate, in the next decade, and has doubled in size in the past decade. When we first passed the legislation to provide collective bargaining rights, this workforce numbered 5,500, and now we are at nearly 12,000. So this is a rapidly growing workforce that is in dire need of really the ability to lead stable lives and care for their families at the same time that they're able to provide stable, high quality care to their consumers. Right now, caregivers, as you heard, are making $18.25. We know from a recent survey that 1 in 5 are still uninsured. We know that a staggering 5% reported being either homeless or in danger of homelessness in the prior 12 months. So this is really a workforce that is not just living paycheck to paycheck, but is really a paycheck or two behind at all times. Now, of course, the good news is that this new agreement is going to take some really significant, powerful steps in the right direction. The first thing it will do is raise the minimum pay rate of $18.25 up to $23 an hour over the next 2 years. About 80% of the workforce is at that minimum rate. The second thing it's going to do is improve the health insurance stipend. So as we heard discussed before, as wages go up, people will begin to fall off that benefits cliff. And so it's critically important that we have the ability for people to buy insurance on the exchange if they no longer qualify for Husky or Covered Connecticut. The third thing it'll do is increase the current paid time off accrual rate, which, as you heard, has not yet gone into effect, but will go into effect actually this Sunday. So for the past 4 years of the pandemic, PCAs have not had access to paid time off. That's going to be a huge, exciting, important milestone for our members starting this Sunday when the new payroll agent takes over. And this new agreement maintains funding for training and career development for caregivers. So there's still a lot more improvements this workforce needs. We are closely monitoring this transition to the new payroll company. We may still need to pass legislation in the future if this new payroll company, GTI, isn't categorically better than Allied, but we're cautiously optimistic that they will be. And so far, we have heard from our members that they are much more responsive to fixing problems, which is really critically important. We are also urging legislators to support including PCAs in the workforce violence bill to protect some of the most vulnerable providers working one-on-one. And finally, there's still a really pressing need for a provider directory to help consumers looking for caregivers find caregivers who match their needs. And so we are working with OPM and the Speaker's office on this and are looking forward to some of these future steps. So although we have plenty of work to do to really bring this workforce into the 21st century, we're really proud and excited about this agreement. And as you can see, our members are as well. And we urge you to support and champion approval of this agreement. We will see this as an important next step in stabilizing this workforce, which, as Melissa rightfully said, we know to provide high quality care to consumers in their homes, we need a stable and well-trained workforce. And to have a stable and well-trained workforce, we need wages and benefits that allow people to stay in the job.
Thanks, Deidre. Thanks, Rob. Are there any comments or questions? Oh, I love that you did that. You have been in our meetings before.
Few years now.
Representative McCarty?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Deidre, can you just go over the last part of your statement because I didn't catch, did you say there would be in the future or presently someone in place that can help coordinate some of the services with the PCAs going into the homes so that they can match what the individual needs in the home? I'm not quite sure I heard you correctly.
So what we're advocating for is an online provider registry. We regularly hear from consumers that are looking for caregivers but can't find caregivers. And we also regularly hear from caregivers that want to stay in the home care field but are having trouble connecting to a consumer. And so what we've learned from other states is that the most effective way to do this is through an online registry, which it's sort of a silly analogy, but it's true. It's almost like a dating site, but for PCAs and consumers, where the consumer might put in, you know, I need a PCA who lives in Hartford, speaks Spanish, is CPR certified, and is okay with cats in the home. And PCAs would put in their qualifications and their geography and what their certifications are. And it could help provide that matching that is so desperately needed. We understand that the new payroll agency does have an online registry, but we don't yet know what are the capacities of it and what kind of sorting mechanisms or filtering mechanisms they can provide. But what we know from other states is that having the ability to filter by different needs on the consumer side and different qualifications on the PCA side is quite important to help make that connection.
Thank you.
All set? Representative Johnson? Not here. Representative Porter?
Hello there and welcome. I just wanted to go back to confirm because I'm not sure of the percent you said. The workers that are currently at 825 that will go to the 23 an hour over the next 2 years. Was that 80%?
Yes, so we believe 80% of our workforce are currently at that minimum rate, which is $18.25. So there's a smaller number that make a higher wage rate, primarily those who work through the brain injury waiver as ILSTs, and those who work through DDS with individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities. But the vast majority are caring for consumers at that $18.25 per hour rate.
Thank you. And then the approximately 20%, do you know if they are at 23 or will this get them there? I'm just wondering what happens to them
When you say the 20%, you mean those who
that are
make above
making
the minimum?
more than 1825.
So they will also get pay raises, but the structure of the raises is a little bit different. So if somebody makes more than 1825, they will get 3 successive 2.5% increases for a total of 7.5% over the 2 years. And so if someone is, for example, at $19 an hour, they'll get whichever is greater, either the new minimum floor, which will go to 20 and then 2050 and then onward to 23, or they'll get the 2.5%, whichever is greater.
But they will reach the 23 by the 2 year.
Everybody, so 23 will be the new floor
Okay.
for all but a very tiny amount of providers that do sleep shifts. They'll still have a slightly lower rate because they're there overnight when consumers are sleeping. But the vast, vast majority of the workforce will be at 23 as a new floor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All set, Representative? Representative Terziak?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I apologize for taking this time. When I was chair, I'd have like punished anybody who was asking a question now, let alone making a comment.
I'm contemplating going there.
Thank you.
Contemplating
Thank you
going there.
very much. So just to start with a question, would you remind me what were the percentages of homeless or at risk of homelessness among your workers?
Yeah, so we did this survey 2 years running in the winter of 2022 and then in the winter of 2023. And both years, from responding caregivers, 5% either said they had been homeless in the last year or they had been in danger of homelessness in the last year. And some of our testifiers that you'll hear from today are PCAs who are currently homeless while working full-time, caring for somebody they love. In fact, 2 of our testifiers out of the 4 are homeless. And a third works with a fellow caregiver who's currently homeless. So, 5% could be, between 500 and 1,000 people in this workforce in any given year that are working, yet also sleeping in cars, staying at homeless shelters, crashing with friends or family where possible. So just to give you a sense of why these wage increases are so important, how can you have a stable workforce when people don't even have the stability of a place to lay their head?
I agree. I asked that because the first time I heard about homeless, actually the first time I heard about PCAs, I was a visiting nurse, St. Mary's in New Britain, there every morning about 6:30, got off early, and everybody in this room knows that, and they've done it. But this guy who I would say hi to in a wheelchair stopped me and wanted to talk about his PCA, raises, the differences, and blah, blah. And she lost her apartment. The pay is so low, got caught in a long month. And wasn't allowed to spend the night. He would have been happy for her to move into his apartment, just show up to sleep here. He was tortured by the thought that she was leaving to God knows what. Thank you very much for coming here. This is important. I'm proud to be able to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. I just gave you kudos.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Okay, no more questions for the 2 of you.
Thank you.
You're all set. Up next is Senator Kelly. Is Senator Kelly here?
No.
Next is Caleb Rosemay. Caleb? Okay.
And Matt, after it's Marlene Chicarella.
Yeah, they're all online. She's promoting people now. She should promote them all. She did. Caleb?
Hello,
Hi,
can
the
you hear
floor
me?
is yours. Keep going.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Caleb Rosemay. I'm just thankful for this opportunity to be before you. Give me one moment. I have to find my testimony. Okay. Senator Austin, Representative Walker, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee. I want to first start by thank you all for being here today. As you know, my name is Caleb Rosemay. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Assured Quality Home Care. And we've been committed to providing high quality non-medical in-home care services in New London County, Connecticut, as well as County, Rhode Island, for the past 8 years. We are proud members of the Connecticut Association for Healthcare at Home and have dedicated our efforts to creating relief and peace of mind for families and their loved ones. I'm here to discuss a matter of critical importance that affects over 16,000 other older adults in the CHCP programs in the agencies that care for them. We stand at a crossroads due to the economic challenges facing our industry. The Department of Social Services reimburses agencies $24.32 per hour for the PCA services we provide. This rate is alarmingly close to the new minimum wage set for self-directed care PCAs, which will rise to 23 per hour by 2026. When you consider the fully burdened cost of employing a PCA that an agency has, which includes taxes, insurance, other expenses, and this is not even including the PTO discussions that are happening. The actual cost for us to match a pay rate of $23 would be $30.94 per hour. So that means if we're paying our aides 23 to match the self-directed care model, it will cost our agency $30.94 per hour. This disparity puts the Medicaid waiver program agencies at serious risk. The narrow margin between the reimbursement rates and the true cost of providing care threatens the sustainability of agency-based services. Without a corresponding increase in reimbursement rates, we face the existential threat of agency closures, which could directly and profoundly impact the livelihoods of our employees and the lives of the 16,000 other older adults we serve. We propose an equitable increase so that we can ensure sustainability for those 16,000 adults, as well as the agencies providing those cares. And we suggest increasing our current reimbursement rate from $24.32 to $30.39 starting July 2024. This rate will increase over time based on the outcome of the phase 2 study that is happening for the Medicaid waiver agency programs, which is being conducted later this year. The new rate I'm proposing is calculated based on the fully burdened PCA rate for agencies to match the current $18.25 minimum wage for self-directed care for PCAs. With this adjustments, agencies can match the current minimum pay rate for PCAs while covering the additional overhead costs. It's not about just maintaining our business operations, but it's also ensuring uninterrupted quality care for Connecticut's older adults, especially those on Medicaid who rely on agency-based care. Not everybody can provide can go with the self-directed care model for multiple reasons, which my colleagues will be speaking about later. In conclusion, we are here to support the advancement for PCA wages. We applaud what's happening. This is exciting. Our aides deserve every penny they can earn. The work that they do really is, you can't put a value on it. It is also imperative to safeguard agency-based care models because we play a significant part and have always played a significant part in this for Medicaid waiver programs. The proposal to increase to $30.39 per hour is a short-term lifeline for agencies and their employees. Just to let you know, over the last 6 years, we have not seen any Medicare rate increase for agencies, only small adjustments. The older adults we serve depend on us. The Medicaid waiver program depends on us as well. And we are just urging you to consider us in the changes that are needed so that this entire system can continue to thrive and provide savings to the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Seeing no questions, Representative Walker.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your testimony, Caleb. I'm sorry, part of it, I would like you just very quickly. You work for Assured Quality Home Care, is that correct?
That would be correct.
I'm sorry?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, so what you're saying is that your Medicaid rate with the increase in the hourly rate would be absorbed by the increase in the hourly rate. Is that what you're saying?
Can you explain, can you say the question again? I just want to ensure I understand.
The rate that this contract brings the PCAs up to would be the margin that you would be gaining per client would be absorbed because of the rate that's the increase in their hourly pay, correct?
The rate increases that is being discussed today
Yeah.
are not for agencies. It's only for the self-directed care model.
That's
So
what I-
there is actually no discussion currently, nor any planned increase for agencies, nor have we seen any over the past 6 years.
I was trying to understand the testimony that you were making and making sure
Yes.
that was what, okay. Okay.
Yeah, to be clear, what I'm saying is that we are there for the self-directed care model. There is an increased plan. This is what the discussion is today.
Mhm.
The other discussion that's not happening is for the 16,000 other individuals who are receiving care, but they're receiving this care through home care agencies, HCAs. So this 1825 to 23 has no regard for HCA agents. So nothing, and it wouldn't be the same. You can't give the self-directed care model 23 and then an agency 23 and think that we're going to be able to do the list of beautiful things that the self-directed care model will be able to do.
Okay, thank you. And what you were also saying was that your healthcare provisions that you provide to your employees is also part of this equation that you provide for them, correct?
Yeah, so when you look at what we factored in, there's certain things that is federally and state required, and it includes things such as sick leave, travel time, onboarding costs, training, 401k, and then health insurance. And Tracy will, from the Connecticut Healthcare Association at home, will also provide a breakdown of how we came up with this.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, we're gonna move on
Okay,
to, thanks,
if-
Caleb.
If I may say just one thing, Senator Austin, as
Yep.
you know, you and I, we've interacted since actually we've been in business. And I remember when we met at the Holiday Inn here in Norwich, and one of the things that I told you is that the Medicaid reimbursement rates for agencies need to be increased because it's not sustainable. And I'm happy to see what's happening for the self-directed care model, but I think that there's still a lot of work to be done for these agencies. We've been here and we have been the backbone of this thing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Up next is Marlene Chicarella.
Hi, good morning, Senator Osteen, Representative Walker, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Marlene Chicarella. I am a non-medical home care agency owner serving Medicaid clients in New Haven County, as well as chair of the Connecticut chapter of the Home Care Association of America. So I'm here, of course, to speak to you concerning the proposed approval for the PCA agreements and its effect on Medicaid clients, staff, and home care agencies. And at the risk of repeating everything, Caleb has done a wonderful job at presenting some of the issues and concerns. And of course, we too absolutely look forward to this work and agree on what's happening here and the movement that's changing all of this. However, we do, again, want to ask for funding for Medicaid reimbursement. So the PCAs deserve a fair, livable wage choice to work in either a self-directed model or an agency-based model. But the 26% increase in the self-directed PCA labor agreement creates an imbalance that will cause agency-based workforce to collapse. That's our concern. So both the self-direct and the agency models are necessary to provide choice and equal access to care. In the self-directed model, as you know, the client becomes the employer and is able to manage all of the schedules, backup plans, train, and supervise. The agency-based model supports the client that is unable to manage on their own and needs the support due to physical or cognitive difficulties. In many cases, families are not readily available due to living out of state, working full jobs, and the added responsibility of taking care of their direct families and other obligations. As Caleb mentioned, the CHCPE program serves over 16,000 elders, where 91% have chosen the agency model and approximately 1/3 have some level of dementia. Home care agencies that partner with the agencies on aging provide that needed support to the client and family caregiver by managing the employee costs, training, staffing, schedule coordination, and communication. Agencies pay for payroll taxes, workers' comp, liability insurance, sick leave, travel time, onboarding costs, annual training, supplies, healthcare insurance, and administrative costs. Agencies manage hiring, training, background checks, scheduling, and backup plans. We are audited to ensure regulations are followed and submit required information and follow stricter standards for the application and the renewal process. Home care agencies have absorbed these expenses imposed by the increase in oversight, legislation, regulations, and increase in inflation. And we've done that so willingly because we care for our clients and our staff. When you compare the self-direct PCA of $23 an hour to the $24.32 per hour that we receive as their reimbursement rate, there is a deficit of $6.62. This will cause agency-based staff to transition to the higher pay self-directed model, which will directly affect the consumer greatly by limiting their choice of care and potentially moving them back into the nursing facility or hospitalization, increasing the state's costs. The home care workforce faces many of the same challenges as the self-direct workforce that has been shared with you today. So I'm asking, as well as Caleb, and I'm sure many more, the agency-based reimbursement rate be increased by at least 25%, or we risk collapsing the agency-based waiver program and access to care that best meets the needs of our elderly population. Again, I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you very much. No questions, so you're all set. Up next is Amaryllis Cruz.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Amaryllis Cruz, and I want to say good morning to Senator Austin and representative, worker, and member of the community. I am PCA from New Haven, and I want to share my history. I doing a PCA work around 7 years. I've been taking my mother for my whole life, right? And for me, taking care of my mother is not easy, but I have to do it. She's my mother, she needs me, right? So right now, our situation is that we are human. We don't control, anything can happen. Like right now, my son is sick. Right now, I'm gonna have a surgery in April 3. And my mother is gonna have surgery in June 6. I need to be stable. I need to be healthy for them. But I don't control what happened to them or what happened to me. If I have a time, if I have the PTO time, I can cover for the hours I will be out. Not because I want it, it's because I need it. For me, for many of us, it's really hard living because you love your parent, you love the other one, you want to be healthy for them, but it's not always like that. I needed the benefit that everybody deserves for have a stable life. We don't ask him for have a rich life. We don't want to be a rich. We only want have the stable life that everybody deserves. Without the benefit, without this contract, we've been lose. We in the position that we take care of other one, but we don't be able to take care of ourselves. It's really hard. The state of Connecticut, the cost of life is increased every single time. My insurance go up because they say the cost of the life of Connecticut is too high, so everything's go up. My food, the gas, the utility, it's go up, but my income stayed the same. I'm the solo provider that take care of my family and pay for everything. And for me, it's so hard thinking, oh, I have to pay this and forget about this because it's really hard. And that's why we are here asking to vote yes in this contract, because it's not like making a favor to us. It's giving the dignity and the respect that all of us, the PCA and the consumer need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we gotta really Thank you. Up next is Tracy Wodash.
Good morning, Senator Austin, Representative Walker, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Tracy Wodach, President and CEO of the Connecticut Association for Healthcare at Home. We are the united voice for Medicaid home and community-based service providers who facilitate Connecticut residents successfully aging in place to avoid higher cost institutional care. I'm here before you today to thank you and Governor Lamont for supporting home and community-based care, especially recognizing the importance and skill set of the services provided by personal care attendants or PCAs. The PCA 1199 wage agreement is a needed investment by the state to ensure people wanting care in their homes can indeed receive that care by a workforce that is trained and appropriately paid for their expertise. However, I must point out that this agreement to increase the PCA 1199 wages by 26% will cause a critical imbalance for the other Medicaid providers of care in the community. Those who qualify for Medicaid-funded long-term services and supports in the community currently have a choice of self-directing. You've been hearing about it this morning. They can self-direct their care by hiring, training, and supervising their PCAs through the use of the PCA 1199 workforce. The client themselves serves as the employer. This is a cost-effective and many times preferred choice by those able to self-direct. Or the client may also choose to use an agency-based model with care management through our valuable access agencies who authorize the plan of care and coordinate care and services through our many Medicaid participating homemaker companion agencies. Currently, there are over 16,000 elders who choose this agency-based model. About a third of them also have some level of dementia. This choice is vital to the balance of our home and community-based options. We urge this committee to consider the ramifications now of this wage increase for one option while ignoring the agency-based model that more than 16,000 vulnerable, frail elders prefer, mainly because they may not have the ability or family support to self-direct. You cannot take away this option by giving the self-directed model a 26% increase and the agency-based model nothing. I have submitted several documents with my testimony to support current costs. I know Representative Walker had some questions under the agency-based model. You will also be hearing from providers regarding specific cost comparisons. To right the ship, we are asking for a 25% increase through 2026, or our Medicaid agency-based provider PCAs will surely jump ship to the self-directed model, and our agency-based provider ship will sink. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Seeing no comments. Up next is Mario D'Aquila. Mario? Oh, there you go. Floor is yours, sir.
Yes, good morning. Hello, distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Mario D'Aquila, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer and co-owner of Assisted Living Services, Inc. I serve as the chairman of the DSS Medicaid Committee for the HCAOA Connecticut, as well as serve on the board of directors for the Connecticut Association for Healthcare at Home. When my great-grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and living at home was not possible, my mother stepped in to provide the necessary home care needed for him to age in place. And from that personal experience, our company was established back in 1996. Since then, we've employed and provided quality non-medical home care services to thousands of Connecticut residents. Our company now has offices in Cheshire, Westport, and Putnam, Connecticut. I'm here today to support increased Medicaid reimbursement for home care providers and caregivers. We provide services to many seniors throughout the state, but our main client base are clients who are funded by Medicaid waiver programs, such as the Connecticut Home Care Program for Elders. These programs are an important component to keeping our beloved seniors aging in place safely and happily at home. Not only do these programs support a higher quality of living for seniors, but they also help to employ thousands of caregivers throughout the state. We understand that the current wage for the PCA union caregivers stands at around $18.25 an hour, with scheduled increases to reach $23 per hour by 2026. We do not oppose this increase, but strongly encourage attention to agencies who employ many of Connecticut's caregivers who care for seniors in their homes. We strongly support increased Medicaid waiver reimbursement rates for agency-based care so that employees of agencies can also match the PCA wage rates of the $18.25 per hour and future increases as well. In order to match these wages, agencies need sufficient reimbursement to cover various payroll expenses when factoring in additional costs like employment taxes, workers' comp insurance, healthcare benefits, 401k retirement benefits, and training. That cost goes from $18.25 per hour to over $25 per hour when factoring in all those benefits and taxes. With the caregiver's wages plus payroll costs and benefits exceeding $25 an hour, necessary compensation to cover the agency's overhead and operating expenses would suggest a reimbursement rate of at least $30.39 per hour for agency-based Medicaid waiver PCA services. By increasing reimbursement rates for PCA services, we can ensure fair compensation for caregivers, attract and retain skilled professionals to this field, and ultimately enhance the quality of care provided to our vulnerable populations. I urge you to prioritize this critical issue and take the necessary steps to address the glaring disparities in reimbursement rates for PCA services. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, thanks so much. Up next is Tanisha Joyner. Tanisha here?
Good morning, Senator Austin, Representative Walker, and members of the committee. My name is Tanisha Joyner. I live in Stamford, Connecticut, and I'm one of the 11,600 personal care attendants paid by state and federal Medicaid dollars. We care for people who have physical or intellectual disabilities, as you know, and help them live with dignity at home. 80% of us are women and nearly 70% of us are people of color. The vast majority of us make $18.25 an hour, yet we do not have access to any paid sick time. Many of us have no health insurance. I currently was just taken off as well. None of us have any retirement. Finally, we have a new PCA agreement that will raise wages from $18.25 up to $23 an hour over the next 2 years. And so I'm here today to ask you to pass the PCA contract because it matters to PCAs just like me. I've cared for my grandmother all my life, pretty much. Well, 15 years, not all my life, she helped me out. But when I saw my grandmother needing more help, diagnosed with cancer and other conditions, despite working my 2 jobs, I decided it was time for me to take that on full time and quit those jobs. I quit those other jobs to care for her because it meant so much to me. But I have a lot of dreams and future plans as a PCA. I make only that $18.25. I'm newly engaged. I currently don't have my own place to live. Me and my fiance are dreaming of just a wedding and having kids one day. And just some type of stability. And she's a CNA working, you know, in a close field. All I'm asking is to simply make enough to have stability, to have insurance so that I can be able to take care of myself also mentally, to be there and be, you know, the greatest thing I can be to my grandmother, any other person that needs care, such as also my mother, who has a brain injury. My monthly rent, I cannot afford. My monthly rent, I could not afford at all. And that's what's also put me in that position. They want you to have first and last month and deposit. I'm still trying to catch up with just basic bills because I was not being paid on time from Allied for the past 2 years. So I have nothing but debt, and I'm still trying to find that place of stability. However, the state has finally negotiated this contract to start, you know, and started recognizing the value we bring as PCAs and include a wage increase to $23 an hour by 2026. As that increase and an increase also to the health care stipend and the beginnings of a longevity system, we deserve the same security we bring to our consumers. So we're calling on you to pass the PCA contract. We're just looking for basics, but we need your support to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Representative, wait a minute. Don't go anywhere. Comment, Representative Porter?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First, congratulations on your engagement. What you're saying is not falling on deaf ears. There's no price that we could pay for you all for the work you do. But I just want to encourage you. Stay strong. I am a resounding yes. I wish I could vote 100 times today on this. I am a absolute yes. And I'm looking forward to making sure that more things happen to help elevate you all to the level you deserve to be at, because the work you do is priceless. And just know you're in my prayers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You're all set now. You can go. Oh, Representative Delaney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Joyner, I just wanted to thank you for your bravery in testifying today and from taking the trip up from Stamford. The work you do is incredible, and thank you again for your bravery. I wish I could vote yes twice on this.
Thank you.
Everybody all set? Seeing none? You're all set now. Tanya Jones? Is Tanya Jones here? No. Okay. Up next is Marie Allen. Marie?
Good afternoon, Senator Austin, Representative Walker, and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Marie Allen. I'm the director of the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging. I'm here today representing the area agencies on aging and our partner, CCC. We are access agencies that stand between approximately 18,000 Medicaid clients and the services they receive as an alternative to nursing home care. We are absolutely in support of the agreement for the PCA Workforce Council and applaud your efforts to create a livable wage for these employees. But we want to let you know about an unintended consequence, which is throwing off the balance between the agency-based care and the self-directed, self-hired care. In my role, I talk to families every day. Some of them, self-direction is the perfect option. As you've heard from some of the PCAs who have testified today, they are able to support family members, support members of the community, and they have the choice of selecting the right person for them. But many of our clients, particularly in the elder waiver, we have 16,000 clients and only 9% of them choose the self-directed option. There are reasons for that. 9% choose the option when they are able to self-determine, but most of our clients at nursing home level have trouble with the large print Bible, just reading the passage they want to read, much less going onto an electronic system and sorting through individuals to find the right caregiver for them, assuming the role of the employer of record and maintaining the time records for those individuals. Even if they have family supports, that family support is in many cases taking care of young children, working 1 or 2 jobs, and unable to provide the role of the employer. Even for the PCAs, being an individual self-hired means you have to market yourself so that someone selects you and brings you into their home as the worker. What the agency does is they play that important role of providing enough clients so that the PCA can make up the 40 hours and get a full-time and have that full-time job. Again, this is an ecosystem. Home care is an ecosystem that requires supports from self-directed care and from agency-based care. In my 20 years of being an access agency, I have never received calls from agencies telling me that they are leaving the Medicaid space the way that I have now. If we do not have agency-based options for these clients, what do we do when the PCA gets the flu and has to leave the home for a couple of days? There is no one at the ready to replace them, to be the backup. Our clients, many of them are bedbound. If I have an agency in there, I can call the agency and get a replacement so that our client is not laying in soil and waiting for someone else to come and care for her or diverted into a nursing home. This is a critical issue. Senator Austin, I want to respect your time. I know you are trying to get through this, but this is so critical. And I just want the committee to hear that a balance, we have to establish balance here, because only 9% are able to use that self-directed option today. So 91% of those 16,000 elder care clients are really in jeopardy right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Susan, Representative Johnson?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And just quickly, I appreciate your pointing out that there's 91% of the people that need the agencies, and only 9% can do this as self-directed. And when if you have any one example of when a self-directed person cannot get somebody else to fill in for them, that would be appreciated if you have an example.
Are you asking for a particular client situation? We have those scenarios on a very regular basis. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and you could just submit it to us in writing so that we can push through the hearing. But I think it would be good to do that. So I appreciate it.
Before both of you go on any farther, I don't think we can get a specific client scenario. I don't think that is what we can do. I think that puts us in a HIPAA.
No, I'm not asking for a HIPAA. I understand HIPAA. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for maybe a series of different clients that ran into these situations that they needed it. So that's not HIPAA.
Without any names at
No
all.
name.
Redacted, sure.
No.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that,
Just to
yes.
say the predicament, and I had a constituent with that particular issue, and it was in the newspaper, but I just thought it'd be helpful for the committee. That's all. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Representative Johnson, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none. Up next is Mike Sundberg. Is Mike here? There you go. The floor is yours.
First year, last out, reminded me of my military career.
My military career also.
What branch were you, Senator Austin?
Army.
Army. Sailor right here.
No. Army all the way.
Oh, let's see. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Senator Austin, Representative Walker, members of the committee. My name is Mike Sundberg, U.S. Navy veteran and a PCA from Winstead. I have worked as a PCA for 3 years. I have 3 jobs, 2 consumers, my brother and my significant other. It means a lot to care for someone and to see that care improve their life. As a PCA, I tend to my consumers' hygiene. I cook their meals, help them exercise, and help keep their places clean, but I do so much more for them too. I'm their bodyguard, best friend, bookkeeper, their muscle, you name it, I do it. But that's just the beginning. When you deal with someone who has a traumatic brain injury, who has seizures every day, I'll actually go into that because that was a change. So let me touch base on that. My girlfriend actually got me into the PCA care. I was an iron worker before this, and she got unconserved, very proud of her. And all her care was quitting on her. So Michael, would you like to be a PCA? Would you like to learn that and help take care of me? And I was absolutely flabbergasted at the thought because I had no intentions of doing that. And she introduced me into something that changed my life because I left ironwork to do it, to take care of her. And then I got with my brother. Well, I'm going to try to keep this short, but she's the love of my life. And she just recently started having multiple seizures every day, not the whole convulsing kind, but she ends up going like back in time to 2015. And I have to teach her everything on a daily basis over and over. She thinks the coffee pot's a robot. Her 2 dogs that are already dead are still, she's back in 2015. And the trigger is Dad. Can you tell Dad to turn down the thermostat? So she's back to like 20 years old or something like that. So I had to come up with a contingency plan to help her. I had to come up with help train some of her other employees in a seizure thing. And what I did was I came up with a video. I saw a couple movies where I saw like people of the future talking back to themselves. So I thought, maybe when she's in her prime, I can actually do this to help her. So when she was completely out and back to normal, I had her take a video of herself. And, hi, Alyssa, I know you're confused and scared right now, blah, blah, blah. It's not 2015. And I noticed that it's helped make the staff's lives easier, and she's not so combative, and she reacts well to the caregivers, because we have to explain who care is all the time, working with her neurologists and all that. So that's what that part of my my paper's about. I wanted to touch base on that. See what So they have to relearn the basics, and you have to teach me how to make coffee, how to flip an egg, how to clean themselves. Your job changes every day, and you have to adapt and improvise and overcome to keep your consumers safe. The pay is currently $18.25 an hour, and that's not nearly enough for a job that requires you to show up and face the unknown every day. I didn't know I'd have to deal with seizures every day, but I adapt, I improvise, and I overcome to make sure that she gets better. The new PCA contract we're asking you to approve will bring the minimum up to $23 an hour over 2 years. Cost of living goes up and up each year. Taxes go up, price inflation, fuel rising. It's long overdue to get a raise that matches the cost of living. I work 83 hours a week every week to provide a good life for my family. Some of you may also care for family members and think, why can't PCAs do the same thing as me? Well, many of us left our primary careers to be caregivers. I just told you that I left being an iron worker. And we shouldn't have to live in poverty because we left our jobs to care for people we love. Please vote yes for the PCA contract, and thank you all for your time. It's appreciated.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This is a,
I don't know.
all right, all right. Thank you. And they all did it behind you. Do you have a question? Representative DiCaprio.
Mike, go Navy.
Yeah, thank you.
Go Army. Thank you.
All set?
That's it. Anybody else? No? Who?
Thank you for your time.
Representative Nolan.
I
He's
think-
also Navy, but I
think
don't.
Navy has
consider
it.
that.
You're outnumbered, Senator Austin.
There's power in numbers.
That's right. Shipmates.
I just want to thank you for coming and speaking on what you have spoken about. It's something that we really are listening to, and just want to thank everyone else that's here in purple for your positiveness and for coming out and being advocates for those who need you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks.
the time you give to hear
Yes,
this.
thank you.
Thank you.
We are at the end of our